friends, welcome to After 83 Weeks. This week we are talking all about a February episode of Monday Nitro. Lot going on here. The Macho Man Randy Savage has joined the NWO. Jim Duggan is challenging Hulk Hogan. And of course, there's a ton going on 25 years later right now in pro wrestling that we have to talk to the one and only, the man, WWE Hall of Famer, Eric Bischoff, all about. But hello, my name is Christy. I have all my friends here tonight. Steve and Adam have joined me, and we are about to pick the brain of this man. We got questions for him. We know you do too. How you doing tonight, Eric?
I am just doing great. It's a beautiful, it was like 62 degrees here today. It was just no wind. It was just perfect. I've had a great day.
Wow. Well, I was actually, just before we got on the air here, I was challenging you, telling you that I think I have more mountains in my view now maybe than you do, as I am now a brand new Las Vegas resident. So
I'm actually, jealous of you right now. But I'll tell you what we'll do, Chrissy. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go out on my back deck and I'll take my phone and I'm going to take a shot of the mountains off my back deck. And then you take a picture of your mountains and let's post them on social media and let the audience vote who has the best mountains.
Oh my God, I love that so much, and an excuse to show off my new balcony. So thank you for that, Eric.
We're doing it tomorrow morning, I'm holding you to it, Christy.
I love that. Well, thanks. And I want to say howdy to everybody who's joined us too from all around the world. Maybe they're in the US. I guess we have some fans from down under. Terry McHugh first tonight. Thank you for joining us. And of course, Josh Eternal too. He was ready for a shout out. I love all you guys. See you all there. Make sure you're typing your questions for Eric there in the live chat and we will get to them. But right off the bat, Eric, so much current news to talk about today. Headlines all over the place. Cain Velasquez, Vince McMahon on Pat McAfee, Ring of Honor and AEW. When you woke up this morning, what news most caught your attention?
I didn't pay real close attention to wrestling news today. There's so much other news going on that I'm pretty concerned about. So
that's a good point, actually.
I've put my toe in the water a couple times. I'm kind of aware of what's going on. The Kane thing I'm following a little more closely. The Ring of Honor thing, we've been talking about that for a week, so I'm a little familiar with that. So, yeah, let's jump right in, man. I'm anxious to talk about it.
Let's do it. I thought you were going to talk there, Steve, because you made a big.
Oh no, that was someone else wants Eric to unblock him on Twitter. That's going to be a different segment. I will point out, to get into the Ring of Honor news, which I think is probably top of the order today. Do you think Tony Khan will treat Ring of Honor like NXT 2.0 from Denovius?
I have no idea. I have no idea. But before we go a whole lot further, because I know this is going to be probably a pretty long topic tonight. Lots to talk about. Let me ask everybody that's listening to chime in, and with just a thumbs down or a thumbs up, I guess in the middle you could just put a 0. Let me know if you think that the Ring of Honor deal is a big deal, and just let me know. Thumbs up, a 0, or a 0 meaning you don't really have an opinion, and thumbs down, not that big a deal. All right, now let's continue and see what we got. What was your question? Right. Do I think Tony will treat it like NXT? Hell, I don't know. I have no idea. Couldn't even begin to guess. I've never, socialized professionally with Tony a little bit, but all told, maybe a total of 20 minutes over the course of 2 meetings. So I have no idea what he's about.
Rumored value of the deal is 30 to 40 million. Of course, who knows whether that is accurate or not. We hopefully will get the real numbers.
That can't possibly be real. That cannot possibly be
You're
real.
not buying it, literally?
Well, I'll be careful what I say here. I'm very certain that that's not real.
Yeah, I would think not, considering, Vince and the WWE bought WCW's intellectual property, something similar of what we're hearing with what AEW and Tony Khan did with ROH. A similar deal went down with WCW's intellectual property, video libraries, and all that jazz. So to me, and it's just me, but to me, WCW's archives are that much greater in terms of monetary value than Ring of Honor's, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, but it's apples and oranges. It's not even apples and oranges. It's apples and bricks, because the WCW library back in 2000 had very little value because nobody knew how to monetize it. Nobody knew what streaming was. No one even had conceived of it yet in conversation, much beyond, what if someday kind of thing. So the Ring of Honor library today arguably would be worth more than the WCW back then. So I just don't think you can compare it that way. I just look at it from just a pure business model without knowing any details. When you buy somebody's business, what are you buying? You're buying their physical assets. You are buying the revenue and hopefully profit. And in some cases, you're buying their loss from the business they do. And you're buying the intellectual property in this case. Okay, well, they're not making any money, which is why they shut it down. So it's not a profit center, and it's not currently generating any revenue that matters. 40 cents a month on YouTube or some bullshit. But it doesn't matter. So they don't have a current cash flow, so there's no value to that. There's no physical assets. So what's left? There's a library. What's that library worth? Now that's what I don't know. And I would imagine there are a lot of people in the media business. In fact, I know there are, because I've had this conversation with some of them at a very, very, very high level. There are people that are losing money on intellectual property now, knowing it's going to be worth tenfold in 5 or 7 years, just because of the growth of streaming and the competitiveness of it. And it's always about content. Technology keeps allowing the business to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it becomes more fractured and fractured and fractured. And all of a sudden, that little piece of content that had no value, 5 years ago, you can make some money with now, because it's a content-driven market. So conceivably, Tony paid a fairly significant price for that library, not because it's worth it now necessarily, but because it'll be worth it in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, or 10 years. That would be smart. I would do that if I could. But so as of right now, it doesn't have, it has a future value, perhaps, based on what that content ends up being worth. But what's the brand worth? What percentage of the United States audience even knows what Ring of Honor is? 2, 5, now a significant part of the existing wrestling audience does, but you've already got them. They're already there. So I don't know, man. I don't know what it's worth. And here's the wild card. The wild card is, if Tony's a really smart guy, and I believe he is, and he's surrounded with some smart people, and I believe he is, then there's a hell of a backstory. There's a hell of a platform from which you could really create some interesting story that's based in a little bit of reality. Mm-hmm. A little bit like the Eddie Kingston CM Punk thing that lasted a minute, right? But take those kinds of opportunities and build upon them against the backdrop of Ring of Honor because of its history and its legacy. And all of a sudden, from a creative perspective, you may have something there if it's done properly. But beyond that creative opportunity that exists in the short term, near term, now term, and whatever the library is going to be worth in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, that's what that company's worth.
But if
it ain't nowhere near 30 or 40 million.
But if AEW is trying to get a streaming deal right now, doesn't this acquisition of Ring of Honor and having that library make them a lot more attractive to maybe HBO Max right now?
I don't know. That would require somebody having a pretty good understanding of what HBO's programming frame looks like. What do they want in their catalog? And does wrestling fit in an HBO catalog? Keep in mind, HBO has always been kind of a premium channel. it's been the Maserati of cable outlets. When they do sports, they do it really, really well and big. I still think wrestling is perceived to be too much of a niche audience, particularly a new company that doesn't have 20, 30, 40, 50 years of brand awareness and generational viewership. You're looking at a new company that's relatively small, that is only doing about 1 million of people a week in a good week. It's not what I would consider HBO premium opportunity, but the fuck do I know? There's people maybe over at HBO going, hell yeah, we'll do that. I don't know. Nobody does.
And who's to say that doesn't fit better with, let's say, Hulu or Netflix or Tubi or Pluto or a bunch of
Tubi
things
or
that
Pluto,
don't exist
yeah.
today?
Netflix wouldn't go near that. Not even close. But some of the other ones, perhaps. Yeah. There's a lot of new ones popping up, man. There's going to be a new streaming platform by the time we do this show, but before the summer's over, I bet. Popping up like crazy.
Which, I mean, I can't wait until I see a AEW or Ring of Honor expose on Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
But Eric, we all have kind of looked at the AEW roster and gone, wow, they're paying a lot of guys a lot of money that we don't see on TV very often. They can reportedly make some new programming under the Ring of Honor umbrella as well. Is there any kind of picture where we could see, Ring of Honor becoming sort of like NXT, and that's sort of their developmental, and that gives their AEW Dark and their Dark Elevation stuff that really does get a lot of eyes, get that on a streaming network? I mean, they could grow pretty quickly from this in a lot of different ways, couldn't they?
I guess, yeah, of course. In probably ways that I couldn't sit here and imagine because I'm not in that business. But look, it's added value. I don't know how many hours of content the Ring of Honor deal. Does anybody know anything about this deal? How much video content? How big is the library? How many hours? Does anybody know?
I can find that out. I remember it wasn't in the press release.
No, it wasn't, which that flagged to me as well, Eric. And I thought, why are they not telling us that?
Because there's not enough. Because there's not that much there.
Or there's not that much like sellable there. Because like I know there's a lot of RF video shoots that were a part of that umbrella, but I don't know if HBO Max is interested in those. Or like something that was 480p with a hard cam, like that's technically an hour of content, but who's going to buy it?
Nobody. And who's going to watch it? Here's the United States. You got the vast media, because the people that know what it is, they've already seen it. They've got the fucking DVDs. They can tell you step by step. They already know about it. You got a very, very small, hardcore audience of people that follow Ring of Honor. Okay, and I'm not criticizing it. It just is what it is. It's just facts. It's just numbers. Okay, this is an opinion. It's a very, very small percentage of the total U.S. audience that even know what Ring of Honor is. Why would anybody watch it? Why would anybody sit down and watch something technically that out of date, poorly produced, by the way? I've seen some of this stuff. It's horribly produced.
Low budget.
So you're going to watch people you don't know in dated material having a match that looks like crap. I mean, it may be technically a good match. I'm not suggesting that the matches weren't good. But just the way it's presented, who's going to watch that? Not America. Just a really, really tiny percentage of them. And who the hell wants that? What network is going to give up real estate for that little fraction of an audience? That's why I think the value is more in the legacy and the creative platform. And then again, long term, yeah, whatever that library is going to be worth. But it's not HBO Max and HBO. People are only throwing that out there because it's part of what is soon to be Discovery. It doesn't make sense to me. But what do I know? It's just an opinion, folks. Just an opinion.
Make sense? Would it make
it's
sense?
an opinion that everybody, our live chatters, are loving hearing. So keep it coming.
I would point out, by the way, zeros and a lot of thumbs down. There were plenty of thumbs up, but it wasn't an overwhelmingly positive response from our chat. I'm curious what you would think if they decided Dark Elevation, their YouTube shows, are just going to be rebranded Ring of Honor, and we're going to have our own champions.
What's the net gain? I would say that Ring of Honor has probably more brand awareness within the existing wrestling community, not a potential wrestling community, but an existing wrestling community. I would say Ring of Honor probably has some brand value there, but it's not going to move the needle much. I don't know. Again, it would require me having a lot more information and a better feel for what everybody's goals are and plans are. For me, just to sit here and spew off an opinion about something I know nothing about makes me just like about everybody else. I try not to do that.
Do we think both Tony Khan and Vince McMahon allegedly being interested in this tape library drove the price up more than you or I think it's?
I guarantee. Who said that? Where's that coming from?
I was reported today that WWE was interested and involved.
Who? I know what. Who reported that?
I believe Wrestling Inc. was reporting it.
It's not true.
All right.
It's not true.
I mean, we're kind of on the kind of TV, rights fee subject, right? So one thing that was asked last week was essentially EC3 and the former Braun Strowman, Adam Scherr, their Control Your Narrative promotion, were going to announce a TV deal. That TV deal has been announced, and it looks like they will be the first promotion in the metaverse. And Eric, you talked about future-proofing yourself, right, in terms of content and promotion. I mean, could this be maybe an inkling of what we might see in terms of the value of not just Ring of Honor, but any other tape library?
That's a good point. I didn't even think about the metaverse. Is that right? Metaverse?
I think meta.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that because there's obviously programming opportunities there. Now, I don't know what the scope of that market is. What's an hour's worth of wrestling content worth? Assuming it's well produced on the metaverse, is it nickels? Is it dimes? Is it dollars? Is it tens of dollars? Is it tens of thousands? Is it hundreds? I don't know. But whatever it is, there's going to be a big market there because everything is continuing to grow, content-wise.
Can't wait till we're buying our metaverse tickets and wearing our shirts in the metaverse and the whole thing. It'll just be money in everybody's pocket. Justin Vick in the chat made a good point that maybe Terry or maybe Tony Khan is just trying to create a narrative of growth to attract new relationships and investors. Is this is doing business like this just a good look for a growing company?
Well, that's assuming that Tony's setting himself up for a sale. Otherwise, why would you care?
Right.
He doesn't need investors, right? He's got all the money in the world that he needs. So if he's got all the money in the world he needs and he's not trying to attract outside investment, he doesn't have an exit strategy, why would you do that? Okay. Unless you're just trying to entertain yourself and the audience by doing something that creates some energy and makes everybody feel like something cool will happen. And hey,
something you can make a big announcement about, Eric.
But and perhaps the creative angle that I laid out maybe that's going to be true, and maybe that tape library is going to be worth some money down the road or soon. Who knows, man? We don't know, and that's the thing. It's so easy to poke holes in shit when you don't know what you're poking a hole in. You just don't know. Nobody knows. I mean, now there's some facts that I'm hearing floating around tonight that I know are not real. I absolutely am 100% convinced they're not real and have a good reason to. But in terms of what's going to happen in the future, who knows, man? It could be cool. Be optimistic.
Brian L. Redlon in the chat, he wants to know if this makes sense if Tony Khan was trying to build a streaming service himself.
Yes. Because here's the problem. Well, here's the challenge when you do that. You need to feed that monster. Look at what we're going through with ad-free shows, Steve. You're directly involved in that. That's becoming a hell of a monster, and it keeps growing. Well, guess what you have to do to monsters when they keep growing? You have to feed the motherfuckers a lot. And then they get bigger. And guess what happens when they get bigger? It's just like having a horse. You get a little foal comes into your life. It just eats a little bit here and it eats a little bit there. Before you know it, it's 1,200 pounds and it costs you $200 a day worth of grass to feed it. And that's what happens when you have a streaming platform. You've got to feed that monster. That would make a great deal of sense. And that may be part of the strategy. Not because it's so valuable and so important, but it's wrestling content that fits within a programming strategy if you have your own streaming platform.
Yeah. Honestly, I hope, though, that's not the basket that Tony Khan is putting his eggs in, because doesn't that seem like that has already passed us by? An entity like that having their own streaming service. Now that WWE Network has even been eaten up by Peacock, it just sort of seems like when you can subscribe to one platform that has a lot of different stuff.
You got to start somewhere. I mean, it's building a business. Vince didn't go from, hey, I've got an idea. Let's create one of the first OTT platforms, over-the-top platforms. And we'll feed it our own content. It didn't go from a thought in someone's head to Peacock in one big step. They started out and struggled and learned and built, and they were already buying up libraries, not because they saw the future 10 or 20 or 30 years in advance, just because Vince likes to own the wrestling world. He collects anything regarding wrestling, like some people collect old cars. He just wants all of it in his garage. And it just so happened that it became even more valuable because of the advancement of technology. And boom, now now streaming is huge, and now it's a competitive business. And now NBC's in business with WWE, and they're going, hey, you've got 10,000 hours of content that people love, and you're on our television network, cable networks, and geez, we can promote it. Fuck yeah, we'll do that. That makes sense. God, this is a smart group of people sitting here, right? Right. We're talking some shit here.
Yeah.
Hopefully somebody in AEW is taking notes. Damn, we're
I'll
fixing
send them
their
the
shit
link
for them right now.
Now, mind you, we're talking about what he said and what it could have meant and everything, but realistically, I want to emphasize how Tony Khan made the announcement. He was channeling his inner Howard Dean. I'm going to Michigan and Florida and whatever. It was very intense, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so anybody that loves him should tell him he shouldn't be on TV.
Agreed.
I mean, obviously his family is. It appears to me, just looking at photos from Christmas, that on Instagram or whatever, that he's got a close, loving family, and one of them should pull him over and say, "Okay, Tony, just for whatever it's worth, not what you should be doing."
Agreed. Well, another big announcement that kind of rocked the wrestling world lately is the announcement of the third man to the big Eric Bischoff and Jeff Jarrett live show. We now know that Jeff Hardy will be joining you. Eric, this is huge, mega major. Everybody can lose their crap in the chat right now. I know you did when you heard this announcement. My question is, Eric, is there anything that you personally are looking forward to hearing from Jeff?
No, not at all. I'm anxious to see Jeff. Jeff Hardy, when he's not out in front of a crowd, he's a pretty cool guy. I don't know if any of you have had any time to spend with him, but he's about as chill of a dude as you can hope to be around. And he's a positive guy. So I'll go out of my way to hang out with people that are positive and chill, and he's one of them.
Have you interacted with him at all leading up to this or getting ready for it?
No. Nope, I haven't seen him. I mean, I can't remember if he was in WWE when I was there in 2019. I'm not sure if he was or wasn't. I know Matt was. I talked to Matt then. No, Jeff wasn't there, but Matt was. I haven't talked to Jeff in years, so it'll be great to see him again.
Well, we're all looking forward to it.
Big E Dad in the chat just wants to point out that he's pre-ordering the WWE 2K22 video game, in specific hopes that you get a piece of the NWO action.
I get a little tiny piece, just a little tiny piece.
So I think is it an $80 pre-order? I should know how much I think it's normally $60. It's probably $80 or $100 for a pre-order. Do you think you're at the 10, like the 80 cents or the 8 cents range of that 80?
I'm at maybe an eighth of a cent. How's that?
Is that your fault for putting so many different people in the NWO?
Yeah, they called me about a year ago, actually, and said, hey, WWE did, said, hey, we'd like to buy your video game rights. And I'm thinking to myself, well, sure. It's not like anybody's beating my door down looking for my video game rights. So, sure. And then they threw out a number, and I went, are you sure? I went from sure to, are you really sure? And I thought, well, okay, it was a significant check. And then they said, oh, and you're going to get back end. And I went, really? This is awesome. But I would have done it for a bucket of chicken and a 6-pack of Coors Light, just because it'd be kind of cool to be a part of a really cool video game.
Don't tell them that. They already paid you.
Of course not.
Yeah, and Big E Dad points out that it's actually $120 for the NWO pre-sale version. So even if you're just getting an eighth of a
that's because Hulk Hogan's getting the majority of the money.
What?
Also,
not true, just a joke, bitches.
Carl Bramblett, I'll take his word for it, says that you're ranked 69 out of 100 in the video game.
It's a decent enough.
I can't help but wonder if
flattering.
that's not a rib, but whatever.
He went out of his way to say it's not a rib. That's what somebody who's playing a rib would say.
Yeah.
No, I mean, meaning the rating that I got from them.
Yeah.
Kind of weird, but whatever.
Also, Scott Woodford.
Who picked that number? Who said, okay, we got to give this guy a number? What should we give him? I got an idea.
Yes. That's exactly how it happened.
I feel like somebody in a room said 65, and then somebody else in the room was like, he did beat Terry Funk and Ric Flair.
That's
You have
right.
to show him some respect.
In fact, who was beating me? Well, Flair beat me. Oh yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin beat me. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about my record.
I just want to point out a quick super chat. Scott Woodford, WWE was in talks to buy the Ring of Honor content. I'm reading PW Insider from March 3rd confirms that. That's today. Or is it, is reporting that. You're right. And there
Really
it is.
smart of whoever at Ring of Honor put that out there to drive that price up, though. Love that.
Ring of Honor has been. There have been people talking about purchasing Ring of Honor that I know of for certain since last November, and WWE was not in those conversations. Now, maybe they came in at the last minute. Based on the things that WWE is doing right now, I don't see it. They're cutting costs. They're getting more efficient. They're pruning their content to be more specific. I don't see it. I think it's a bunch of people guessing, and I think it's people putting things out there in the wrestling media because they'll fucking report anything they hear in a bathroom stall. And that's where most of it should remain, by the way. But instead they print it, and everybody thinks it's probably true, but it's not. But for whatever reason, people think it is. And hey, maybe that was it. Maybe somebody at Sinclair decided, hey, we got this Tony Khan cat. We want to try to get as much money out of it as we can. Let's let everybody know that WWF is knocking on our WWE's knocking on our door. Let's put it out there. Because we all know everybody loves the internet and loves wrestling dirt sheets for news. So who knows? Maybe it worked. Maybe they didn't get $30 million for it. Now that I think about it,
I love the roundabout way we convinced you that maybe that number isn't as insane.
Yes.
well, only if it was through that kind of fucking Houdini PR spin wrestling dirt sheet news strategy. But I can see how people would buy into it. Sure, why not?
Sinclair Broadcasting, I mean, they know how to spin a thing or two. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, they can do the spinneroonie over there. No, all night long.
I'm really curious to know who these other potential buyers would be. If it's not WWE and Tony Khan ultimately got it, who else would that library be valuable to? I'm
I
losing really
don't know.
spinning.
Billy Corgan.
I don't know, but you're so
Nope.
good at asking these questions. The last time you did that to me, I had to call 20 minutes later and ask Steve to take it off.
I know.
I got
So
done doing that.
move
I got
on.
done doing that show. And I got into the house. I sat down to eat. And I went, fuck. I thought about it all night. And then I thought, okay, this is going to hit Twitter. This is going to get a little noisy tomorrow because the first night it's just us, right? Just us.
Right. Just us here.
And then it goes to Facebook, then it goes to Twitter, then it goes to Instagram, and blah, 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 blah. And which I love, by the way. I'm grateful for that. But I went to bed thinking, let me think about this overnight. I woke up in the morning at about 5 o'clock. I shot up out of bed straight up like I'd been somebody hooked me up to a pair of jumper cables. Shot up, went, oh my God, I got to get that. I texted Steve at like 4:30 in the morning his time. I said, pull it down.
Oh, well, and we love squeezing the juice out of you, Eric, but we of course don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah, you're awful good at it. You're too good at it. I gotta be on my toes with you, young lady.
Eric's Glasses in the chat says it's Steve Kaufmann. He's the buyer. And that Christy Olson
There you
is a
go.
silent partner.
No, she wouldn't be silent. See, I know that's not true. 'Cause there's no way Christy would be silent.
Not
That stuff
possible.
would be all over the place.
Also, Scott Woodford says he has a source within the WWE that was a part of the talks. So
All right,
we can
well.
talk with Scott Woodford.
There you go.
Everybody's
All right.
got a source. Well, who went straight to the source today? Pat McAfee had Vince McMahon on his show. Is this something that you hear, Eric, and you're like, I want to know what Vince had to say? I'm curious.
I did want to see it. I didn't see it. I've seen a couple things on social media. I've just been busy today and preoccupied, so I just haven't spent much time on social media. I really want to see it, and I will. I'll watch it. I'll find it. But I haven't seen it yet. But I'm really interested because Vince is a fascinating guy. If you can get to him, he's got this kind of an impenetrable electromagnetic force that follows him around, and it's really hard. And that electromagnetic force is at such a high frequency that you just can't break through it. But if you can get him relaxed and get into a conversation that isn't Vince being Vince, that would be fascinating.
I'll give Pat the credit. I think he pierced that veil a couple times.
That's awesome, then. Pat's a cool dude. I met him briefly. Very nice guy, very respectful, very cool guy. Loves the business, loves it for real, not like in a bad way, in a great way. He loves it. And if he got through, man, that's it. It was either I want to see Pat do it or Joe Rogan. Either one would be good for me, and I get to see Pat. So maybe Joe's next.
Yes.
That'd be wild, wouldn't it? Oh.
Yes.
Sounds to me whoever Vince would let pierce that veil needs to be working a match at WrestleMania like Pat is.
Joe Rogan would be great, man. I'd pay huge money to watch Joe Rogan in the ring.
You already got Taker.
So would 11 million of his listeners every day.
Joe Rogan versus India Ari.
Do the math on that for about $99 a pop. Just take an average direct response rate of about 3%, maybe bump it up to 3.5% or 4% just because of who it is. Even at that ridiculously minuscule projection off Joe Rogan's, oh my God, he'd make a couple bucks off that.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Joe. Bruce Pritchard, call Joe Rogan, book a match. Come on, get him in WrestleMania.
I mean, they're both Texas residents. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Texas is a little, just a cute little place down in the Southwest. I'm sure they could find each other. But yeah, that'd be awesome. Come on, who wouldn't buy that?
Well, they already got Logan Paul slated for this WrestleMania.
Not the
Would
same
you-
thing.
Oh, okay. Even with the following and all of that, you'd see a Joe Rogan match as far more valuable.
Yeah, because Joe's the real deal. Joe's legit. Joe's a badass for real.
Mm-hmm.
And people know, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
And
He started out, I believe, in Taekwondo. He was a study karate first. I think it was Taekwondo, and then migrated, I think, into jiu-jitsu. I'd love to watch him in the ring.
Oh, that'd be good. Spinning sidekicks for all. Just saying.
Maybe because of his Korean style background, maybe.
Oh, have you seen the video with him teaching George St. Pierre the spinning back kick? It's amazing.
No.
Oh, I will send it to you.
Yeah, please do. I'd love to see it.
Justin Vick pointing out Rogan and Bischoff would bond over elk.
We would indeed. And I listen to Joe a lot, by the way. I'm a big fan of his show. And he does love to hunt. He feels the same way. Well, he's probably more passionate about hunting than I am. But he's very, very passionate. And he hunts elk with a bow. He's the real deal. He's not like a weekend warrior when it comes to hunting. He's the real shit.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
Yeah, well, we're moving into an area that could be a little controversial. I'm going to throw this one at you, Eric. It was announced today, and we do know this for sure. WWE pulled the network from Russia. And to be honest with you, I found that surprising coming from a company who does a lot of business with Saudi Arabia, especially when there wasn't any political pressure on WWE to do so. As someone who's worked there behind the scenes and knows their history, were you surprised to hear that they made that move?
I was proud that he did. I just read it 20 minutes before I sat down to fire up my computer here. I think it's fucking the right thing to do. And I don't want to get into a geopolitical discussion with you on this show, but Russia and Saudi Arabia are two different things in a lot of ways. But what Russia's doing right now is unconscionable. And I can't imagine how anybody is doing any business that puts any amount of revenue in anybody's pocket in Russia, including our own country, who's spending millions and millions and millions of dollars a day buying fuel from Russia. There is Ukrainian blood in every barrel of Russian oil that this country is currently importing into the United States. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, I like it. I absolutely like it. And Justin Vick, he says in the old days, they would roll out a Russian bad guy. With that all being said, do you think it would be in poor taste in today's day and age and climate to do something of that ilk? And I'm not just talking about now. Maybe it's a little bit too soon right now, but maybe in the next couple of years. Do you think it would be?
No, man, our culture's changed so much that kind of, it's interesting. And I don't want to make it sound like I study the history of professional wrestling, but I am fascinated by it. And I do occasionally look for and read books that, from a historical perspective, that cover the 50s and the 60s. I find it fascinating to see the evolution of just the wrestling business in general in its history, which is pretty freaking awesome if you love history. But then wrestling's position in the evolution of the television industry within this country. Wrestling's always been at the forefront of television. Even in the beginning of television, when very few people had television, wrestling was one of the most successful things on television. The Dumont Network back in Chicago, back in 1953, I think it was. Wrestling has always been there. But if you look at the characters in the 50s and in the 60s, the 70s, even into the 80s, right? Early 90s, I guess you could go so far, Sergeant Slaughter and all that. Wrestling was always kind of a caricatured mirror of culture. And you can't do that anymore. That's a no-fly zone in this culture. When it comes to a nationality or the ethnicity or culture or religion or any of those things that people are very proud of and protectful of, you can't go there anymore. Not even a fun, humorous way. And I don't think that's bad, by the way. I think there's better ways to find interesting aspects to characters than going to the obvious cheap heat, childish kind of caricatures. that just don't fly anymore. So I can't imagine anybody's going to do that in the future, ever. Not in wrestling. It'll be done in scripted stuff, of course. You can get away with it, all kinds of shit doing scripted things, traditional scripted, drama, comedy, whatever, action. You can make, caricatures of Russians all you want. That's fine. Just not in wrestling for whatever reason.
Kind of going off the idea of that, sort of on that note, I think a lot of wrestling fans have heard the news about what happened with Cain Velasquez in the last, 48 hours. What I want to talk about is the fact that he's getting a lot of support from the wrestling world online, especially even WWE superstar Ronda Rousey tweeted out and said she would have done the same thing or maybe worse. Do you think, not knowing what's going to happen with his charges, let's say he's acquitted, do you think there's a future where he could be a hero in pro wrestling or in fight sports again, and almost sort of use what's going on now as a baby face storyline where he'll get a lot of support?
Well, it is, isn't it? I mean, it automatically is, inherently. No, let's be really clear. We don't know any facts. All we know is what TMZ has told us and what some reports are, but we don't know. So let's live within the realm of if what we've read is true, and then what if what we've read is not true? If what we've read is true, I'm so proud of Cain. Not that I'm advocating people take that kind of thing into their own hands, but I shouldn't say proud, not proud of him. I understand. And I think everybody that wants to be critical of him should think about it for a second, especially now, because as we hear and see every single day, adults that molest children get slapped on the wrist and they get turned loose. What do you think that does to people who have children, knowing that there are people out there that can molest them and nothing's going to happen to them? Because that's true. What's going to happen? I understand it. I'm not advocating it. Again, it's vigilance. What I am advocating is people actually enforce laws that exist on the books. That would be nice to kind of eliminate this kind of stuff to the best of our abilities. But look, if the guy molested a member of his family, I'm not surprised, and I can empathize.
Yeah, we'll certainly stay abreast of all that news that comes out about him, and I'm sure this is not the last time that we will be talking about it.
Yeah, it's such a sad situation. I mean, I met Cain. I talked to him for 90 seconds, maybe. I don't know him at all, but it's pretty easy for us. Well, it's pretty easy for me to put myself in someone else's shoes, especially in a situation like that. It's just a horrible, horrible situation. Horrible. I don't get it. Whatever. I'll go off on a tangent. Sorry.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens with all of that. Man, there was so much great stuff to discuss this week. Anything from the show, guys? I know I had
What are we here for anyway? All of a sudden, this is starting to sound like, Bill Maher or whatever. Fuck. Come on.
Macho Man and the NWO. I think we can lighten things up there.
Yeah, let's ask some questions. Get me talking about supporting a guy that tried to shoot somebody. The hell, this show has deteriorated.
We kept it light.
MY2979. Eric, why can't Tony Khan surprise his audience like you did? Warrior, Lex Luger, even Bret Hart in WCW.
I don't know. And look, I threw that out there on the show, last week. I said, sometimes just let surprises be surprises. You don't have to advertise that you're going to have a surprise. It's no longer a surprise. It kind of defeats the purpose. Hey, Christy, I know it's your birthday next month.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a surprise birthday party for you. So, okay? Be surprised.
Okay.
Or no, it's your birthday next month. We're going to have, we want you to be at our house at 3:00 on Saturday afternoon.
Okay.
Dress casual. And by the way, bring your swimsuit because, there may be something going on.
Oh.
Oh yeah, that's your birthday, but don't even think about that. No, you know what I mean? It's just, if you're going to have a surprise, have a surprise. Set the audience up. Invite Christy over to babysit. No, Christy, I know it's your birthday next Saturday afternoon, but could you do me a favor? Mrs. B and I have to go out of town, and we really, really, really need somebody to watch Nikki while we're gone. So would you mind spending the weekend at our house so we can go to Las Vegas and visit some friends? And Christy would say, oh, it's my birthday. Fuck, okay, sure, I'll do it. And she'd come over to my house thinking she's going to be picking up dog crap and feeding my dog every night at 6:00. But instead, there's a house full of people. Yay! We're surprised. Have that kind of surprise. Don't have the kind of
that was
surprise
fun.
where you tell them that they're going to be surprised. Ugh. At least not all the time. Mix it up a little bit. Just once in a while.
Once in a while. While we're on Randy Savage, Ibzon wants to know if Randy was upset with you that you kissed Liz on the lips. You talked a lot on this episode about his jealousy and his feelings for Liz.
You know, it's funny because after that scene, I saw Randy. He was packing his bag, and we happened to be on a jet together that night, flying back down to. They would drop me off in Atlanta, and the jet would continue on to Tampa to drop off Hulk and Randy and Kevin, I think, was there. And right before we got in the van to go to the airport to jump on the jet, I kind of wanted to rib Randy just a little bit. Not much, because I'm not much of a ribber. But I did say, Randy, she was a lot better kisser than I thought. Got no reaction. And I said, and I was surprised when I slipped her a little tongue. She was all about it. Boom! What are you talking about? I just made all that up, just so you know.
That could have been the original Plane Ride from Hell. My goodness.
I'm watching Adam, and he's like going, oh.
Yeah. I'm just.
It popped Christy so hard she left the chat.
Yeah.
Christy's gone. I'm sure she's coming back.
Oh my gosh, she's probably mad at me for doing that.
Oh.
Oh, good. I was hoping it was just me and not everyone. Sorry. What happened?
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I know I just tried to dip out early. We have got one more big question from, now it's not showing in my start anymore, Steve. Will you throw up that super chat from Joshy Turtle for us?
There
and
it is.
Do that before we start our special after party. All right, last one for our 83 weeks fans tonight before we go over to ad-free shows. Eric, Joshy Turtle wants to know, he said, Garrett had a hard time keeping a straight face when you cut promos on him. Did you also ever think you were going to break character and laugh back at him?
I don't think I did in the moment, because just the way I do that stuff, I actually believe what I'm saying while I'm saying it. So not in the moment, but I look back at him now and I'm going, how did I not bust out laughing? That's some silly shit, because we didn't rehearse it. I mean, we walked and talked through it, but half the time, whatever we walked and talked through 3 hours earlier in the afternoon was completely different than what came out of my mouth in the moment, right? So yeah, and some of it I'd say something, and I go, God, I can't believe I just said that. Like the one when I think I called him, you know, I made some reference to the fact that whatever, call him some kind of a waste of good sperm or something like that. That was it. I said, you're a perfectly good waste of semen. I didn't know I was going to say that before I said it.
Wow.
So when it came out, I was like, I wasn't going to laugh at him, but I was like, fuck, I can't believe I said that. Neither could my wife. We had a little chat about that when I got home.
Oh.
Oh, and if you guys haven't caught Mrs. B's interview with Lex Luger on ad-free shows, you should definitely check that out. And on that note, everybody from 83 Weeks who's watching on the YouTube channel, thank you so much. We do this every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. You can get your questions answered. And for our ad-free shows friends, if you're not one, sign up at adfreeshows.com. But we're going to give you a little private after party right now. So keep your questions coming. And thank you all so much for tuning in with us all from all around the world. We love you. And next week, Steve or Eric, do you know what we will be tasting on 83 Weeks next week?
Something's telling me it's a TNA pay-per-view.
Oh,
It
that's
is
right.
Victory Road 2012.
That's right. Conrad announced it actually at the very end of the podcast. I do that.
Thanks for the
So we'll
heads up.
see you next week for TNA and ad-free shows. Friends, stick around. Everybody else, thank you so much. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Jesus.
Pick this music.
I feel like I'm
I'm
in an
waiting for the
elevator.
beat to drop.